Welcome back to the Almanac Comicopia, your guide to the grand macro story of the DC Universe. Let's dive in. Today's episode takes a comprehensive look at the life of Bruce Wayne up through the day he dons the mask, as well as the immediate consequences of his doing so. Like our other videos so far, this episode is all about a character from Earth 2, the location of DC's earliest canonical creations, those of the Golden Age. Usually, I'd introduce the comics we're looking at in the episode here, but thanks to the real Batman Chronology Project, we're able to do such a deep dive on Bruce that there's simply too many to list out. All objective information presented in this episode of the Almanac can be found on that website. I highly encourage Batman fans to check it out, as it has resources for all the Batmen. Bruce Wayne was born in 1915 to the co-owners of the $1 million Wayne Enterprises company, Thomas and Martha. In modern money, that's upwards of $34 million, less than I would have imagined, to be honest. Thomas Wayne kept a journal. In 1919, he wrote, "Tonight, Martha and I are going to the annual masquerade ball. Our little boy seems fascinated by my costume." As you can see in the depiction of this entry, little Bruce is nearly squealing with delight.
"Gee, Daddy, I wish I could wear a suit like that."
"I'll save it for you, Bruce, to wear when you grow up."
Thomas affably responds to his toddler. This scene is a flashback from Detective Comics 235. Moving on, I'll simply refer to Detective Comics as Tech. The Thomases, that would be Roy and Dan the authors, not Thomas and Martha the parents, canonized location of Bruce's private education, which began shortly after the previous scene. The Hudson Academy is an upstate New York boarding school and is where Bruce receives all his schooling until college. I'll also mention here that while not ever shown, Bruce begins his extracurricular education at the age of 8 in 1923, joining a group known as the Sea Scouts, learning various skills therein, most notably boxing. 1 year later, in 1924, while walking home from a movie, the Waynes are targeted by a robber of the name Joe Chill.
Hey, what is this?"
A perturbed Thomas asks.
Stick up, buddy. I'll take that necklace you're wearing, lady."
Thomas tries to defend his family, as Chill warns him.
"Stay back, you. Don't try playing hero on me."
"Leave my wife alone, you filthy..."
He never got another word. This scene was first depicted as a flashback in Tech 33, but I've opted to show the definitive version of events via Secret Origins, realized by the Thomases, Marshall Rogers, Terry Austin, and Carrie Spiegel. Notably, Rogers does the colors on his own pencils. That's so cool. You'll get another look at what his art looks like later. Remember that scene with Bruce loving Thomas's costume? Well, it's part of a string of flashbacks wherein Thomas is forced at gunpoint to heal
Lou Monzone, the bank robber.
Thomas pulls a ballsy move after realizing,
"I've got to do something. But what?"
Next, in a barely believable scene, Thomas hooks his foot on the boss's chair, knocking him over, and then he proceeds to knock out all the hoodlums before one can even fire a shot. Thomas then escapes before Moxon even gets up. I can't really buy into this. If you can defend it, I'm here for it. Talk to me. Moxon, released 5 years early, runs into Thomas Wayne out and about Gotham, saying,
"I swore I'd get you, and I will, but I'm too smart to do it myself. The police would arrest me on suspicion fast. I'll get someone else to do it for me."
So now, returning to this moment, we have an understanding that one Joe Chill is not a robber, but a hired killer. One who seems less bloodthirsty than his original portrayal in Tech 27, but more on that in a second. First, while this selection of panels represents some quality art from the Secret Origins team, Martha Wayne is a dead ringer for a flight attendant, and it's just kinda weird. Feel free to disagree, but I'm gonna live in the real world. Back to the story. Rather than shooting the woman and child, leaving no witnesses, he follows through on the performance, responding to Martha's,
No! You've killed him!
Shut up! Give me that sparkler!
Help! Police, help!
Martha cries out, who now totally overwhelmed, starts to suffer a heart attack
My heart!
when Joe Chill grabs her necklace. This causes her to crack her skull open on the nearby lamppost. This scene avoids melodrama due in part to the lack of sound effects. It just reads as more serious this way. And now, here's the original depiction of those events from Tech 33. Notice the white puffs of smoke near the gun barrel in both of these panels. These are the gunshots. Crucially, the original story has Joe Chill straight up murder Martha, but the Thomas's rendition respects the later retcons that happened, which explained that Chill was hired to assassinate Thomas only. While it's undeniable that the art of both Tech 33 and Secret Origins pops in contrast to Tech 235, I wanted to take a moment to just point out how wonderful Roger's color choices are for his art, and also point out, look at the candle. That's like the best candlelight I think I've ever seen in a comic book. This scene shows us Philip, who is Thomas's brother and now Bruce's guardian, reminding the little Bruce,
Don't forget to say your prayers, Bruce.
to which he assures his uncle.
I never forget them,
He then goes on to pray.
and I swear by the spirits of my parents to avenge their deaths by spending the rest of my life warring on all criminals. Please, dear God, help me keep my promise. I'll do anything.
Later, while Bruce ages into a teenager, he develops what will become a lifelong hobby of reading, eventually discovering a particular interest in criminology, going as far to keep a, quote, secret library, quote, of particular texts that he would continue to use into his adulthood. He also begins learning about his family tree and leaning into the lavish lifestyle of the Waynes, shopping only at the finest stores. He finds quiet success in his teenage years, but only academically. He acquires his driving license at this time as well, and upon graduation in 1933 at the ripe age of 18, Bruce dives back into studying criminology. One day, after seeing a front-page scoop about police detective Harvey Harris, Bruce, overwhelmed by his adoration for the man, leans into his own outlandishness for the very first time. Bruce tries his hand at stealth, and things spiral quickly out from there.
I've watched Mr. Harris for days without him seeing me. When I tell him that, he'll surely admit I've got sleuthing ability. No, I can't let him know who I am. He might think what I'm doing is dangerous and want to discourage me. I'll have to conceal my identity from him.
No, on screen now is not Robin. Yes, that is an R on his chest. No, I cannot explain why. I can theorize for you that the choice to duplicate the Robin costume was to ease the burden on Tech 226's art team, but I truly don't know. In any case, we're supposed to believe that Bruce threw this costume together using materials at the mansion and skills he picked up from being a voracious reader. I'm on the fence. Talk to me in the comments about this one. That night, Bruce tails the detective, during which he manages to notice something of interest.
That's funny. He isn't following his usual route. I wonder, is he trailing somebody?
Robin, Bruce, notices that the man Harris has been trailing is onto the tail, and is now waiting to jump Harris. So, he does the only rational thing he can think of, grabbing the giant Bell Clothing Company sign and dropping it over the guy's head, right before he jumps Harris. Bruce waits for the police business to conclude before hopping down and declaring, as you see at the end of the first panel,
I want to be your pupil.
Harris considers,
If I turn him down, he'll maybe go off on his own and run risks. concluding, "I'll string him along till I find out who he is and warn his parents."
Well, joke's on you, Mr. Harris. Bruce doesn't have any. In panel 3, you can see that he decides to call Bruce Robin. I kinda hate that. The framing panel of panel 4 is quite good, showing such a different expression from Harris compared to that of panel 1. And with the city and Storm in the background, his ominous dialogue works even better.
You'll learn first that detective work is no light-hearted game, but a life of hard work, of loneliness, of danger.
Boy, is he really spelling things out for Bruce here. We'll take a moment now to pause and mention the creators of this flashback since we're spending so much time on it. This is Edmund Hamilton's brainchild, as presented by Dick Sprang and Charles Paris. While we're at it, the other flashback from Tech 235 was good old Bill Finger's idea. If you didn't know, while Finger didn't conceive of Batman, he was the creative engine behind Batman, while his partner Bob Kane took almost all the credit for, I believe, 50 years. But that's a story for another time. Finger's The First Batman flashback was brought to life by Sheldon Moldoff and Stan Kay. Back to the story. Bruce, who is now the Robin to Police Detective Harris's Police Detective Harris, has been evading the latter's attempt to figuratively unmask the young man. Suddenly, the detective is called in on police business, allowing Bruce to tag along. Remember the spiraling I mentioned?
You say headquarters has called you onto a case. Then I can go along?
Bruce eagerly asks the detective, who is busy thinking to himself,
He's already given me a clue to his identity. And maybe I can get more.
The sitch that our characters find themselves in is utterly ridiculous, past the point of jumping the shark, and we're at the start of it all. A collector of, and I quote, valuable big ship models has phoned in to claim that racketeers have been threatening him. Indeed, they're threatening him at this very moment. Our odd duo arrives too late, and the models have been set adrift. Oh no!
This model wouldn't bear a man's weight, but it'll bear mine.
No, wait!
For some reason, this river, this inlet, flows towards a waterfall, leaving Harris to frantically rush ahead and drop his tow line for the insanely lucky Bruce. All of this is happening because Bruce was bored of reading criminology. Despite almost biting the ultra big one, Harris keeps Bruce around to warn other wealthy collectors in the Gotham area of the racketeering scheme. At this point, I'll mention how much more enjoyable it is if one opts to read this ludicrous story as a skewering of the police force's defenders' property over people, versus reading it as a heroic tale of Harris and Robin saving the day. Not shown was a scene where Bruce deduces that an explosive was rigged to the metal shield of a statuesque clock, which would be struck like a gong, causing it to explode. Like I said, spiraling. You know what? That's enough time spent on this adventure, which wraps up with the detective clarifying that despite any success,
I want you to wait until you've trained yourself fully before you start a career that can be great.
I'll mention now that in accordance to references from a slew of different titles, Bruce takes the detective to heart and develops his skills in art, archery, horse riding, polo, ventriloquism, and ornithology. That would be the study of birds. More notably, he earns a pilot's license and alongside it how to fly planes, helicopters, and autogyros. Of course, he learns how to safely skydive at this point since he'll be up in the air. Finally, he learns everything he can about ballistics and ammunition. By age 20, Bruce enrolls in college at Gotham University. Unlike with Detective Harris, Bruce does not take this particular professor's advice to heart when he says that college is
about learning how to live.
Shown now from Secret Origins is a montage of how Bruce spends 3 full years of university. In tandem with other flashbacks and references to this time, we know the following. Bruce, top in his class, uses his collegiate classes to delve deeper into criminology, taking it as a major. Specifically, he learns more chemistry, physics, scientific criminal investigation theory, and law. Outside of the classroom, he takes up all sorts of fitness activities like gymnastics, acrobatics, tightrope walking, weightlifting, trapeze work, track and field associated activities, swimming, fencing, wrestling, advanced boxing, and jiu-jitsu. Additionally, he learns more stealth techniques, police procedures, and some spycraft. What a dude. At the bottom of the montage, we can see Bruce getting into costume for the university's production of Hamlet. Part of a hobby he picks up to learn advanced makeup and disguise techniques. We know that this guy's never doing anything because it's fun. In this production, Bruce stars opposite of Julie Madison, who he's pictured with in this panel many months later, in what must have been one of the brightest spots of his dark life, replying to her,
I love you, Bruce Wayne.
with the honestly too cute for himself,
I'm 6 months ahead of you, Julie.
Bruce spends the rest of 1938 studying world mythology, hoplology, that would be the study of armor and weapons, as well as various elements of art, world, and United States history. Towards the end of the year, Bruce visits Paris, detaining a robber who shoots up his hotel. This robber returns many years later under the name Jacques Venta. It's around this very time that the friction present in Bruce's small collegiate social life peaks. Tired of being second string to the ever-fabulous Bruce,
Danton's jealousy of Bruce grew and grew, till finally, during a class fencing match,
the man stabs Bruce's wrist, snickering all the while. The coach observes,
Danton, that was the lowest yet! You took him by surprise, without even putting the protective rubber tip on your foil.
now post-graduation, at age 24 in the year 1939. Bruce sees Julie Madison set off for Broadway. She confides in him.
I only wish you could forget all this police stuff and go to New York with me.
Bruce is left paralyzed on the platform, perhaps a small part of him realizing he won't be getting off before the last stop on his own train to vigilantedom, thinking,
So do I, Julie. But I just can't.
Weeks later, Bruce has done nothing but brood over how best to begin his career as a policeman, and now finds himself confronted by a letter from Julie communicating that
She doesn't believe she's strong enough to go on loving a man who means to constantly place himself in danger.
this is enough to stir up some doubt, leaving Bruce wondering.
Still, what if I'm not cut out for detective work somehow?
The nervous Bruce decides for himself it would be best to do a little further sleuthing before even applying for the very first time, and furthermore that when he does said sleuthing, he must wear a disguise, as if he were in a play or movie, so that Julie couldn't possibly hear about it and worry. The guy's so neurotic, and he hasn't even started yet. It's in these next moments that he famously concludes,
Criminals are mostly a superstitious, cowardly lot, so my disguise should be one designed to strike terror into their hearts. I must be a creature of the night, black, terrible.
His thoughts are interrupted by the fluttering of a bat, coming in through the open window. Bruce, not remembering his father's bat costume at the moment, concludes that,
It's an omen. I shall become a bat.
here's the original version from Tech 33. I greatly prefer this one. I think it has to do with the colors and maybe the motion lines on Bruce, maybe Bruce being shown in both panels. Anybody who dislikes this one, I'd love to hear why. We skip forward a few days now, where Bruce has donned an old man disguise and set up a tailoring workshop inside of a hotel room. He's hired master costume makers to bring his conceptualization of the Batman to life. Not shown but referenced in a number of stories, Bruce will store the costume in a trunk in his very own bedroom for now. Foolish.
Fool of a took.
He designs his first utility belt around this time as well. And here we are. arrival, the first look at the first Bruce as the very first Batman. He's focused on his pursuit at the moment rather than the immediate goal in front of him, stopping a would-be thief from accessing a warehouse. Bruce is spotted as he hurls himself off the roof towards the man, who calls out,
Eh? What the hell's that? A man? Dressed like a giant bat?
As Bruce grabs the nearby sign to swing himself into a full-force kick, he quips,
In other words, friend, a Batman.
the camp is already off the charts. Bruce nearly kills the guy, who luckily falls in the spoon decoration mounted to the building below them.
I give up. My leg. I can't move it. I think I busted it when I fell.
As Brute Boy scoutily responds,
Hold still. I'll come down and take a look at it.
I'm unsurprised that Bruce is a total sucker, falling for a classic stunt. He'll regain his composure in time to witness the man flee over some recently tarred street. When Bruce descends from the roof, he finds white particulate matter stuck in the tar, concluding, after conducting some science off-panel, that it's thallium, a mineral used in the manufacture of glass. I'll take a moment here to note how much I appreciate the Thomas's efforts to demonstrate that Bruce, above all other things, is a detective who knows how to find people, how to understand their motivations, yada yada yada. Bruce uses his knowledge of thallium to lead himself to the only abandoned glassworks in Gotham. Unfortunately, Stripes is sufficiently paranoid or intelligent, as he freely admits,
I thought you might trail me here, masked man, so I can watch from a window.
while tossing down a heavy net onto the Batman. Bruce gets tied up, but easily escapes using a pail of jeweler's rouge, a polish made from ferric oxide. He debuts his mirror trick, as you see in the panels here, causing Stripes McGee to totally lose control of the situation, just as he settled down for bread and beans. Classic Bruce boasts,
I've come for you, punk.
he'll leave the man for the police with a cutesy Batman note, and then head home. In the fantastic panel you're looking at, we see Bruce emotionally unpacking his debut. Not shown in this video is the dialogue where he admits to himself.
I was bad out there tonight.
His thoughts turn to,
Maybe I would be better off behind a nice safe desk after all.
so he phones Julie. Bruce has decided he's going to surprise her with a proposal and declaration to move to be with her in New York. Extremely fittingly, he visits a friend of his childhood guardian, Thomas's brother Philip. That friend is actually Commissioner Gordon, and Bruce isn't the least bit hesitant to request a nepotistic boost.
I'll lead up to asking if he'll recommend me to the police in New York.
He thinks to himself. The Thomases humorously have Gordon mention the Batman. Interestingly, we're not privy to Bruce's sentiments on that matter. He doesn't have a chance to continue the conversation because of a sudden telephone call. I'm going to interrupt the synopsis for a moment to draw your attention to how integral this moment is. The phone call, that is. The Thomases have done a beyond spectacular job of bringing us up into this moment, since it's there that Bruce's story originally began. On screen now is the first panel of the first page of the first Batman story, Tech 27. For a little while moving forwards, I'll be showing y'all both depictions of the story, with the secret origins coming after the original. On the phone call, Gordon is informed of a murder, with the primary suspect already detained. He invites Bruce to tag along. Wealth opens all doors. See, as we, but original readers could not know, Bruce is meeting with Commissioner Gordon because he's thinking of giving up his vigilante dreams. Thanks to this call, Bruce is now privy to the crime scene.
Hello, Lambert. They say you killed your father.
The commissioner says quite casually. Lambert, totally freaking out, shouts,
I didn't do it. Commissioner, believe me. I didn't do it.
here's the same scene by the Secret Origins team. I've decided I'm going to keep score of who did it better. I'm going to try to not be biased against Bob Kane for being such a piece of shit. So if you think I'm wrong, please do let me know. I'm not going to bite your head off. I'm going to eagerly listen. Back to the story. Bruce casually receives all pertinent case information during Gordon's interview of Lambert. In summary, Lambert witnessed the tail end of his father's murder, which Gordon believes, since, luckily, the business partner of the deceased party phones for him while the police are present, leading to a corroboration of evidence. Bruce casually ashes his tobacco pipe on the floor, clears his throat, and says, "I'll leave you here to finish your work. I'm going home." In the Secret Origins version, we feel the absence of Bruce ashing the pipe, as well as the click of the telephone. Both of those things make the moment feel lived in, whereas this one feels quite still. So unfortunately, I'm giving the point to Kane. Mere minutes later, we see Bruce batted out of his gosh darn peanut, blissfully unaware that at the moment he hasn't really lied to Commissioner Gordon about needing to go home. Unfortunately, while Bruce either arrives too late or is simply waiting for the crooks on the roof, said crooks rob Stephen Crane, the aforementioned business partner, of his very life. And here is the portrayal from Secret Origins. And it was a tough one for me, but I'm going to give it to the team for the depiction of the night sky and more ultimately for placing Bruce on the chimney, making his inevitable takedown of these men much, much, much more believable. Springing into action, Bruce closes the gap before being shot, taking care of the duo in a sufficiently believable and quick manner. Of note is how he throws new Stripesy Boy off the roof. Also, Bruce doesn't have his fin gloves. Based on what we know so far, Bruce either forgot them, which I'm disinclined from believing, or decided that they were ineffective for whatever purposes he intended. You can decide for yourself why he's gloveless. That's the whole fun of this. Also, please do share your thoughts on tossing Stripesy McBoy off the roof. For me, since it's unclear how truly expert Bruce is at this point, I'm unsure if he is doing it on purpose, and accidentally tossing the guy off the roof is not nearly the same gesture as doing so purposely, and that's important because we want to understand this guy and what he's doing and how he grows.
Meanwhile, the commissioner draws up in his car.
Noticing Bruce immediately and shouting,
It's the Batman! Get him!
in what must be my favorite panel of Tech 27 so far. Tech 27, by the way, is presented by scoundrel Bob Kane, as I've made clear, and written by glorious Bill Finger, if I did not make that clear. In Secret Origins, both of these moments are smooshed together via the layout, but you'll have a chance to examine Gordon's arrival more closely in just a moment. The team's interpretation of the scene is, how can I say, not an improvement for me. Also, we can see here that the flipped man is not thrown off the roof. I cannot really put my finger on what exactly isn't working for me here, but I can definitely say it's not working. The scene in Secret Origins where Commissioner Gordon notices Batman is pretty awesome. It's a royal shame that it's a tiny portion of a shit layout. Anyway, I have to admit that Kane busted out some of his best work with his version, and despite how beautiful this is, I have to go with him again. And now he's winning by 2 points. God damn it. Next, in a meanwhile back at the ranch style turn of events, we're treated to a reveal of the villain. The second business partner, Alfred Stryker, has an assistant, Jennings. Mononym it up, baby. Here he's seen tying up business partner number 3, Rogers, enjoying a future we know will never come.
One more out of the way. Soon I'll control everything.
In the very next panel, he explicitly tells Rogers he's going to kill him with a gas chamber. Yikes. Jennings' science lab of doom looks much better in Secret Origins, considering it houses a frickin' gas chamber. I don't see the need for the additional Jennings dialogue, though, as the version in Tech 27 made a significant impression on me. When no other characters in that comic had, Batman hops in through an opening in the ceiling in the worst scene of the comic for sure. 2 panels later, as I've excluded the right-hand side of the page, we see him plug the gas jet with a handkerchief, the plausibility of which I'm totally unsure of. Doubters and believers, please do go nuts supporting your point, because I want to make up my mind, and I don't really have the ability to find evidence easily on the internet for one case or the other. Back to the opening in the ceiling. What the hell? Anyone want to make this less ridiculous for me? Why would this window be open? In any case, Bruce uses a wrench he picked up in the first excluded panel to bust the chamber in the other. Oh my god. The Secret Origins team really had an opportunity to further justify what was happening back there, but they didn't. I don't understand why the window is open, but now I'm assuming that Bruce shimmied it open or something while he was on the rooftop. I would have liked to see that, I guess. Also, while I do like the artwork here better overall, it's not great, with the colors making it harder to notice Bruce grabbing the rod above him to slow his descent. I mean, seriously, did you notice that? Look at his thumb. Notably, the Secret Origin version has Bruce shatter the gas chamber from outside it using the very same wrench. The Thomases sidestep the whole handkerchief bit, which I'm grateful for, but it doesn't solve my plausibility problem in the slightest. In a fantastic twist that I did not see coming, when Stryker shows up because of all the noise, it's not out of concern.
So, he didn't get you after all. Well, I'll finish you and then throw your body in the acid tank below.
Bill Finger got me good here because of the inner monologue from Jennings earlier. As the narration informs us,
Stryker has not noticed the Batman, who has secluded himself in the shadows.
So the events play out predictably in Bruce's favor. Given the entire idea behind Batman operating from a higher knowledge than his adversaries, and that kind of translating into the whole motif of him operating from the shadows, I have to give the point on art to the Secret Origins team once again. They portray how Batman would manage this scene in a much more believable way, and I need that because Bruce, like Wes Dodds, is just a guy. But Bruce, unlike Wes Dodds, is incredibly trained, so I'm much more forgiving. Suddenly,
With the strength of a madman,
according to the narration, Stryker breaks free from Bruce's restraining grasp, trying to shoot him. A hard, immediate hook from the Batman results in the scene you see here, with Rogers noting that Stryker is
Falling right into the acid tank.
yikes. Bruce is about to manslaughter a dude. I wonder if he'll feel remorse. We know Batman, after all. He never wants to take even a single life.
A fitting ending for his kind. A fitting ending for his kind. A fitting ending for his...
Oh. Well then, Bruce. I have to imagine the acid, which looks like oil for some reason, going kasploosh, even though there's no sound effects here. We're then treated to proof that Batman's superpower, the world's most effective Irish goodbye, has long been part of his lore. The story ends shortly after this, back at Gordon's office, with him detailing the prior events we saw, in some fashion or another, to a seemingly skeptical and disinterested Bruce Wayne. In the Secret Origins series of events, we see Stryker slip out of his suit jacket in an attempt to flee, stupidly busting through the guardrails, not falling over them, and landing in the very same vat of acid, still no sploosh. I'm giving a point to both sides here because I really liked the splash of acid from Tech 27, despite its strange color. That being said, the use of panels to break up a single scene into moments is a favorite technique of mine, so that plus the additional details and expanded view need recognition from this version you see now. We end up with a tie, though, because Batman's Irish goodbye looks almost silly in the Secret Origins version, even though the cut-off dialogue suggests a real rapidity to Batman's departure. At long last, it is 3 a.m. No, I don't mean you watching the video, I mean for Bruce. And he's ready to tell Julie Madison that he's coming to New York to marry her. The reader is left to believe that, given Bruce's adventure, he is no longer getting off the express rail to vigilantedom. However, the conversation between him and Julie plays out exactly as you would have imagined if Bruce had simply asked Gordon for the recommendation and never donned the suit again. This is because Bruce wants to eat his cake and have it too. He admits to himself, but not to his love, that
Bruce Wayne is giving up his lifelong dream of devoting his life to the fight against crime,
because to him it's now
a gauntlet that will be taken up by someone known only as the Batman.
a fantastically strong finish and deserved closer to Bruce's beginning. I really love this final panel, mostly because, as cool as it is, the longer you think about it, the sadder it gets. Personally, I have no shame admitting that it made me cry after a while, thinking of how, if it weren't for that phone call, Bruce probably wouldn't be undergoing some type of psychosis, earnestly manifesting an alternate self. If that's not your preferred read, I could instead imagine that Bruce is just lying, without much qualm, and justifying said lie in quite an ill-mannered way, ferociously disrespecting a woman he's trying to propose to. In either case, the final nail in the coffin for me with respect to this final panel ever being cool is that I have to imagine it taking place after some time. That is to say that Bruce isn't rendered in bat garb for affect, for aesthetic, but rather that he's indeed batted out once again, ready to go back into the night, immediately after the phone call with Julie. Oh.
And that's a wrap for now on The Batman. We have one last character to introduce in the Almanac's first chapter, and by now you must have guessed who it is. Superman! We'll be returning to Bruce and his horrific descent soon enough, as the Almanac's next chapter is all about the Big Two's beginnings. This episode has been brought to you by special guest Sam as teenage Bruce, Rachel, the narrator and female characters, and me, Troy. It wouldn't have been possible without the Batman Chronology Project, so an extra special thanks to Colin Kolscher, who runs the site and inspired this project. As always, I look forward to speaking with you in the comments. See you there, and next time.